from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. Pretty well. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox. What an incredible show we have for you tonight. It is Races from the Stars. We are doing the Sirians tonight. A couple things I want to announce before we get into that this is the embattled broadcast from behind enemy lines in the once great state of New York. And we are the direct opposition to the darkness. We are the light. Help support the light. We have a PayPal link up top in the chat. If you want to help this broadcast expand, get bigger and better, please do so by donation or become a member on the channel. First, I want to take a moment before we do anything to speak to Leanne from Riding the Frequency. And I want to do a moment of silence for her mother, who recently transitioned yesterday or this morning. And just let her know that she's in our thoughts and our prayers. And, you know, your mother is truly riding the frequency now. And that station will be attainable for you to tap into to remain connected. And with that being said, I just want to give a moment of silence to Leanne's mother. All right. With that, now we've done that, I want to make sure that we all have positive energies going to Leanne. She's in our thoughts and our prayers, and we're here for you if you need anything. That's for sure. Myself and Omar. Omar is part of Watchers Talk. He is not going to be able to broadcast for a few days. YouTube got him this time. I think he's on a 7-day ban, but that's okay. We can also support him still by going to his page and watching some of the videos and getting caught up on the protocols of Saturn. I believe he's going to be going into part 4 very, very soon. Before we get any further than that, we also have an event coming up. And this event, as you can see, is the Great Awakening, Exposing the Pandemic. David Icke, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Sasha Stone, Edward Griffin, and Brad Olson. I'm going to be putting a link in the chat so you can get your free tickets. You do have to sign up for the tickets so we can send you over to our platform on deciphering.tv that is completely censored free. And it's going to be an absolute, it's going to be an amazing show, especially with the heavy hitters such as Brad Olson, Judy Mikovits, and of course, David Icke. So with that being said, we're going to jump that into the chat when the time comes. So everybody get on board. Go get your free ticket. All you got to do is sign up for it. Also, this series is taking us to new heights and levels. The last video we did had just an amazing response to it. The Alpha Centauri is one of the lesser known extraterrestrial bodies out there, right? Extraterrestrial entities. And within the first 24 hours, we got almost 2,000 views. So I want to thank everybody for that, everybody for watching. Tonight, we're going to be doing the Sirians. Some know the Sirians as the big blue entities, but there are so much more than just that. There are a ton of races that actually reside within the Sirius constellation. We're going to be going over some of them, mostly the major ones. We're going to be talking a little bit about their history and their interaction with this planet. So buckle up. It's time to get in. Let's dive into the action as we always do. Again, please like, subscribe, and share this out. This information could be paramount to helping people figure out what kind of starseed they are or where their lineage truly comes from. We talk about, a man or woman not knowing where they come from is a man or woman lost. One of the things that we did with the galactical beginnings, and now this on top of it, is to try and connect those dots, because once we know where we come from, it empowers us on such a level that nobody will ever retain or hold control over us ever again. So this is part of my mission in awakening those. And also, before we get into it, the chat that we've been making on Telegram, that we've been crowd sharing information has just blown up. We've got 100 people in there now. There's conversations happening. There's information being being spread. In the description of this video, you can find links to both Telegram. One is the broadcast channel, which we can do our live chats on, and there's also the crowd sharing or full spectrum family or forever student family chat, whatever you prefer. It's the FSF. So let's get into this immediately. We've got the Sirians tonight. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is where the Syrians come from, right? Who are the Syrians, really? Where does this constellation reside? So this is in the Canis Major constellation. It is in the southern celestial hemisphere. It is the second century within the second century. Ptolemy had 48 constellations that he mapped out. This is one of them. It is counted among the 88 modern constellations that we know of today. Its name is Latin, and it means greater dog, in contrast to Canis Minor, the lesser dog. Both figures are commonly represented as the following constellations of Orion, and we're going to show you exactly what that is right there. There we go. Switching it over. They're in the Orion system. So now, knowing what we know, you can see that the Sirians and the Orions probably had some pretty tremendous skirmishes. But again, this is a broadcast of unconditional love. So we're going to touch a little bit on that, but we're not giving our energy over to any of that madness. So this is a open cluster, right? And it borders. The most notable entity that's on the side of this is the M41 spiral galaxy. The Canis Major contains Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, known as the dog star. It's bright because of its proximity to us within our solar system. So now we know where Sirius is. We know what is around Sirius. And there's a reason I do it this way, is because I truly want to really encapsulate regions, right? Regions of space. And we look up at the night sky, and sometimes we sit there and think to ourselves, I really wonder who resides there. And this is one of the reasons why I start with this every time, because what we see is now we can understand the constellations themselves. One of the things that I did growing up was I just literally loved constellations, finding them, figuring them out. One that always sticks out in my mind is Orion's Belt. Orion's Belt is tremendous. It's a tremendous constellation that we see a lot, right? So make sure that that everybody is getting what they need by looking up and seeing that they are from these specific constellations. They have genetics that reside within these constellations. Also, the event link is going up right now into the chat. Go and get your free tickets. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So let's move on. So now we're going to talk about the Syrians themselves. When we talk about the Syrians, we're talking about the entire makeup of all these different races that is clustered together to become the Syrians. We're going to break down the differences within those races when we get a little bit further on down the line. So the Syrians are a peaceful and an innovative and a loving race. They come to our planet to help assist us in raising the frequency of the human race. So, with what we just said and what's been going on, especially within our personal lives, this is something to cling on to and know that they are majority are benevolent into helping us. Of course, like I said before, everything is a shade of gray. So there are some that are not benevolent, they're malevolent, but majority of their actions proved that they were a race that we could trust or that we could confide in to an extent. So their desire is to lift us up out of the dense energy we're mired in currently. So we may become more of a fully functioning member of the Galactic Council. This is important. We have to take our place among these peoples because the Galactic Federation is right at our doorstep. We have to prove to them that we can be that greater society. and not stuck in the fomenting of war and low frequency. We have to move into this new, 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 this new earth that we talk about. And there's some people in the chat that say, you know, that the Syrians are all blue. They're not. They're not. There are many, many races that reside within the Sirius constellation, one of which is blue. And you may see them as that. That is because of their density and their energy. We're going to get there. So anybody saying fake story in the chat, that's not true. Not true. You have to understand that these people are somewhat beyond our comprehension, and we do our best to describe them as we go. So let's keep going. Now, the Syrians are the original builders of the planetary architecture, and this is why some higher factions of the Syrian races, such as the Lyran Syrian councils that live in the law of one, are also called guardians or guardian hosts, right? We know that because of their frequency and how advanced they are consciously to us. Now, what happens is the Sirius star in Canis Major acts as a transmission agent to the higher self principle for the planet of Earth. And this is residing within the universal time matrix. They are both benevolent and negative beings that form the Sirius system. And of course, they are the primary gatekeepers of the 6D timeline, which they protect. They make sure that the sixth density timeline is one that is always within not so much the positive, but always swinging towards the side of light as opposed to the sides of dark. As we keep going here, we see that this is all sacred geometry, and six dimensional is where we start to shed our physical essence and just become the ether or become a light being. We shed the physical body. So let's keep going. Now, the Syrians talk about the assisting of Earth and its inhabitants, and they're also considered to be spiritual warriors, right? And more spiritually advanced than most off world civilizations. They originate from a double star in the constellation. That's what the Canis Major is, right? And it's really only 8 light years away, which is another reason why it seems so bright. They appear human and are our distant relatives. The Syrians are, in general, of course, fourth to sixth density beings. Now, they can reside all the way up to the 11th density, but majority fall within the fourth to sixth density. Many Syrians are deeply wise, conscious, spiritual, loving, empathic people. And though they're much more evolved technologically and spiritually than us, they are more advanced in a metaphysical sense, as Sirius is home to one of the most advanced training centers within this universe. It's known as the mystery schools to which the ascended masters traveled. And Sirius is a star system, which is a meeting place for beings of this galaxy who wish to continue their spiritual studies, which in turn, when they help us, they kind of bridge the gap of giving us a bridge to a lot of other entities that reside out in the cosmos. So the Syrians have impacted Earth on such a tremendous level, especially in ancient culture. And we're going to get to that a little bit too. The, the Syrians have a deep connection to Earth and the energies of nature, which we're also going to explore a little bit too. And many of the Syrians had numerous lives as Native Americans, and they maintain close ties and memories of these lives. And the Syrians are very intuitive and visual. They have the ability to see things which others do not. So now we see that things are. It's truly a wonder how amazing a lot of these beings end up. And a lot of when we look at this, a lot of people would sit there and think, well, we're going to get there someday. And it's because of their guidance, along with a lot of other entities and a lot of other races, that we will get there. Right? This is truly something that is remarkable in the fact that they've affected us in such a way that we know now what to strive for, kind of giving us guidelines on how to ascend to this galactical family and kind of shed the everyday nuances of just whatever, your 9 to 5 roles, or, you know, just regular life. And I know when we talk about these things, sometimes they seem very fantastical or fantasy even. But I truly think that our fingertips are right on that ledge right now. I think that by getting this information and empowering a lot of this information, what we can do is we can strive for goals. And everybody has their set type of, um, like their set threshold where they're trying to achieve to. And everybody should take a different piece. So we're raising up all sides of this one at a time, one at a time. So let's keep going a little bit, because we have the Sirius A beings and the Sirius B beings, the ones that reside around these planets. So we're going to get to it. So first thing we want to talk about is, where did the Syrians evolve from? They evolved from the Lyrans and the Vegans, right? Are they humanoid? Yes, very much so. What do they look like? It is diverse. And we're going to get into what those specific entities that live there look like, but they can come to you as almost any color. A lot of people see them as bluish because they're residing within the sixth to seventh density. And what that looks like to you would be energy. Energy usually takes the shade of blue. And when we talk about the different colors for different civilizations, they are the ones that reside in that aquatic blue, or that lighter teal blue, which means that they are ahead of their time in intelligence and benevolent the majority of the time. So the types of Syrians that exist. There are the Syrians that reside around Sirius A. They are sixth to eighth dimensional hybrids with a variety of humanoid, canine, and fox appearances, resulting from tremendous DNA manipulation. As well, they are a star race who is an expert at bodily implants, device tracking, and over eons of times. And they're very well versed in hyper advanced biological technology and organic holographic realities. You're going to say to yourself, wow, it's a lot. It is a lot. And this is part of the reason that they're helping us too, because they're experts in holographic realities. And this is how they access us to essentially help us in that way. Because if you're thinking about it, if a sixth to eighth density being, let me bring it back to me real quick, because this is important. A sixth to eighth density being has shed its physical body, right? Its energy. How does it interact with a third dimensional being? Now, knowing that these entities can kind of come down to 3D or 4D to interact with us, but how is that possible if we talk about a 3D matrix that is residing around this hospital planet that's helping us get to where we need to be? How would they interact in that? They would have to open up ways to get in, right? And that's part of their ability to access the holographic matrix that we live in. They're experts in it. They have technologies that reside in that can help them to facilitate that move. So, also, that's a very good point, Andromeda, that their sun and their environment, their bodies can tend to look blue when you see them, right? Especially if it's a telepathic communication, which we actually have a telepathic communication that we're going to talk about in a moment. And that's one that Alex Collier found. And he's been a tremendous import of my information when it gets into the races, because I'm one man. I don't know anything about a lot of these races until I actually looked it up, because I haven't had contact with any of them. So I have to go off what other people say, but also find the patterns of reoccurrence within those stories, right? So this is how they access us. They get to us, and they're usually one of the more, I want to say, they are one of the races that actually is in contact with humankind a lot more. And that's also probably because of their advanced ability to get through the matrix, right? And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So let's keep going. So basically, the sentients who are one across the universe, they also are known for having a tremendous sense of humor, and they love playing practical jokes. And you can say, why is that important? Because they're lighthearted. And when you can joke around and have that sense of humor, you're coming majority of the time from a place of love. And that love is what is transcending those boundaries. You know, people see these entities and they get contacted and they get startled, but because of the loving nature in which these entities reside, gives them a bridge of communication, right? So let's keep going. So now we have Sirius B. And this is why people get a little bit confused and say, well, you know, they're blue. That's it. There are so many different races that reside within this specific, this specific cluster. And Sirius B has connections to Earth as well. And one of the reasons why Sirius A beings interact with Earth is because of the Sirius B entities, right? So let's keep going. So the Nectans are hyper intelligent water beings, right? But they're called the Chlogans or the Chologians or Chologans, however we want to say it. And they look like cetaceans, dolphins, whales, orcas of Earthshan, and Earthshan is the Earth. And they actually have a group think mentality via pods. And we're going to get into that a little bit too, which is kind of wild. But the Chologans, humanoid hybrids who sometimes are bipedal, are in shades of pale blues and greens. They can also come with the tail almost like a mermaid, but they're not seen the same way. They're not seen as merman or merwoman, whatever you want to call it. Higher dimensional sentients who reside in and upon many planets, and they raise the vibration. They're also playful and a loving group, consciousness beings known for their intricate songs, right? So if we look at some of these entities that would be from the ocean and we look at our own histories, we know that there are the siren song that the Vikings, that the ancient Greeks, that the ancient Romans used to talk about, that this song could sway a man to do whatever these sirens wanted. And it kind of makes sense when we're starting to line up, right? So there are land dwelling Syrians, and there's also sub-land Syrians, which means they reside within the water. So these advanced beings can also have numerous souls, right? What I mean by that is, let's say that they incarnate as a dolphin or a whale. Those whales can hold numerous souls, and that's the pod. And it's in the biology. This pod resides within the biological entity, such as a whale or an orca. And this is how sometimes they interact and stay on this planet, by incarnating as those entities, as a whale, an orca, a dolphin, and multiple nectins or chiglins or I can't say it right. Chloglins live within those orcas, right? And what did we say about the dolphins and the whales before? The dolphins and the whales, when we were talking about galactical history, were essentially the living library of Earth. They were part of that that DNA structure that resides on a bunch of different planets. And these are the entities that made it through a lot of the cataclysms and survived, being somewhat of an ark or a living library that resides on Earth. So it's kind of wild how we talk about Sirius and how intelligent they are, how great at genetic manipulation they are, and how their technology and their consciousness rivals many of the other groups within the planet, within the galaxy. But they come back and they live together within, on this plane of existence in the 3D, experiencing it through whales and orcas. So there's no coincidence there, right? Keep going. So now on Sirius A, let's go back there. There is another race of beings that's called the Kate, and they are considered benevolent. Many of the human races there are red skinned. Their ancestry is some of the first Lyrans that escaped with the women and children during the Great Galactic War between the Patel and the Draco. And what happens is a lot of these ascended masters fled across the galaxy and inhabited these other worlds because they wanted to make sure that essentially that the Lyran, the original Lyrans, remember there's two stages of Lyran. There's the modern Lyran and then there's the Patel Lyran. They wanted to make sure that those Patel and ascended masters survived. So these entities also reside within our oceans. They tend to make their bases on Earth under the ocean. And they also have the genetics of whales, octopus, and shark. They're a race that is super artistic. They have music as well and are connected to nature. They are also builders. They're not very political, and their governments are based on spiritual technology, right? Which is using sound and color. So think about that. Their government or their governance of how they live their life is based with technologies that use sound and color. Again, going back to the siren song and how they could manipulate men to do what they wanted. Now, whether they were good or bad, they were just affirming of what this potential was, right? So, as we keep going here, the racial characteristics of these Sirians suggests that they were originally colonists from Vega, and the Syrians who were originally from Vega left Vega, escaping some cataclysmic interplanetary war, and of course in the constellation of Lyra. So again, this is where we see this mass migration from Lyra, and when we do the Lyrans, it probably is like an hour and a half episode because it's going to be so much information to dovetail into, and it's really going to be a remarkable one. We might save that one for the last one, kind of go out with a bang, right? So as we keep going here, it might be understandable on how they developed an interest in building, right? We talk about how good the Syrians are at building. And it's because when the civilization was destroyed and they fled Vega, they literally had to recreate a new world in a young star system. So it was behooving them to create the same type of civilization that they had prior to that cataclysm. So they took their time building up Sirius and the planets of Sirius for refugees and things like that. And they took a tremendous pride in that. So this is one of the reasons why they came here and sort of did the same thing with us. They tried to help us in that way. And we're going to talk about Alex Collier for a minute. And he refers to this again using sound and colors as a kind of spiritual technology, which suggests that they specialize in terraforming planets and making them suitable for evolution. It's not just evolution, but evolution of life by altering the biomagnetic energy grid. And that's one of the things that's going to be super tremendous later on. And this is what, again, when we talk about energies, we talk about sound and color is manipulation of energy. You know, when they were building these things like the pyramids, or, you know, it's said that, you know, some theories that they used sound to curate the perfect bricks to lay for monument. So again, the Syrians are everywhere if we're seeing what they're talking about. So let's keep it moving here. Now, the following telepathic communication provides more information on the Sirians as builders of a new planetary structure in terms of altering the biomagnetic grid that assists in the evolutions of humans and other life forms. So this is a quote from this specific telepathic communication. Now it's not mine, and the person's name I can get, but it were really when I was reading a lot of this, didn't go into who this person was. So they are the original builders of your grid, the architecture on which your planet was based. So, therefore, they are useful in discerning the sacred geometry and discerning the physical laws of your home world. They can help you also in constructing the new grid and constructing a new system that is appropriate for your next challenges. So we would say that the Syrians are excellent allies in the strategic design and work that lies ahead. Now, this is from an Andromeda talk about the Syrians. This isn't from the Syrians themselves, and this is some of Alex Collier's work. So, as we keep going, he claims that the intervention of the Syrians is due to mistakes that have been made from those on Sirius B in terms of technology transfer and other forms of assistance given to humanity. So we're seeing a trend that the Syrian bees, which we talked about, were here first. And of course, they resided within the oceans. Again, we talk about the histories of how these entities interacted with man in this last 12,500 years as modern history, we could call it, right? And probably even before that. And we're going to prove to you it was even before that. So as we keep going, there's a ton of information here. And this is what gets me excited, right? So it's under the understanding that those from Sirius A, the system of Sirius A, were trying to be beneficial and assist because they felt responsible for those that who colonized Sirius B system, because also they were originally from Sirius A. So they migrated to Sirius A first. Some of them split off, went to Sirius B, and then Sirius B came to Earth before Sirius A did. So when Sirius A came to Earth, they felt responsible for the actions of the Syrian bees because they were common ancestors. And the main activity that can be attributed to those extraterrestrials from Sirius A is to assist in the building of suitable ecological systems for human evolution on Earth by altering, again, the biomagnetic energy grid. Those from Sirius A assisted in global solutions such as environmental protection, promoting biodiversity, assisting in the raising of consciousness and evolution of the biosphere, which is pretty intense. Pretty much had their fingers in everything. So now I want to get to the star seeds of the Syrians. Now, this is a person who resides on Earth or potentially somewhere else that has genetics of the Syrians and has been put into this incarnation cycle to come up and help us fight against the dark in times like now. So we're going to talk about some of their traits because some people out there, like I was for a very long time, and this is how I feel it's beneficial, was I didn't know what kind of starseed I was. I just knew I was a starseed because of my longing for, for space and information in this area. So I knew that there was something up because I was so drawn to information about the galactic family and things like that. So it took me a long time to realize that it was the Alpha Centaurans, and actually we had to get contact to even get to that point. But I think by reading off some of these traits, if you don't know what star seed you are, you might be able to relate to that and then start down your path of figuring out where you came from. And this is why this information is important. So let's go to the traits. And I'm going to read them a little bit slower and a little bit, more contrived so we can understand it. And the traits of people from Sirius are to be determined on whatever path they choose and to concentrate a lot, right? Now you're going to say, well, that's everybody, right? But they have a more natural drive to them, which is what I would say. They don't get convinced to new ways easily, but once they are, no one can stop them. So they're driven, but they're also very much a part of a routine, right? And that routine they feel is beneficial, and they will go through their day and not feel right unless that routine is completed. Now, bringing them information and showing them that that routine can be altered in a little bit of way, at first, you might get a little flack, but once they see the benefit to it, nobody will be able to stop them from transforming into that specific routine, whatever it is. They are ideal people with strong belief systems and can mingle easily with others, right? They believe what they believe. So they're a little bit stubborn in a lot of ways. And that's not a bad stubborn either. That's a good stubborn. They don't get tilted or taken off their game easily. Their own nature from others, and they get disappointed because of this, right? Own nature, when they see that in others, they sort of get disappointed. And it's not that they see something within themselves there. They feel maybe that they are the ones who should be doing it, and not that other person. And it's very much, it's super essential for them to overcome this to work towards that galactical family. The Syrians had to do it, right? They do not share their personal issues, feelings basically with others quite freely. And they opt friends after understanding their ins and outs carefully, which means that they are not one to put their burdens on others, and they choose their friends carefully. And it's very much essential for them to not to sort of confide more in others and not hold their feelings in, to express themselves a little bit more freely. So they always concentrate on the future. They hate to relocate and the past, and they hate to go over their past, and also oppose others when they're forced to relocate as well. So they like their routines and their spaces. And if things start to change and others start to invade that space, they tend to get more annoyed than not, right? They don't like challenges that are forced upon them. They like to be the master of their own making, they say. And they like to protect themselves within their belief systems. Again, these are not good nor bad. They are just character traits of people who are usually Syrian starseeds. Now, I'm not saying that because of these traits you couldn't be something else. You very well could be. But these are the highlights of it, right? Situations to release past hurt, forgiving themselves and others, and awaiting karma is something that they can be either for or against, but they're very strong within that, with whichever way they go with it, right? Which means that if they're not good with it, they can hold grudges. They have a hard time forgiving themselves, and they don't want to see things happen to other people. While the others have an easy time releasing that past hurt. So they're that's the polarity of it, right? They consider themselves sometimes in a utopian state, which to me, what that means is that they enjoy their normal surroundings and they relish the fact of that routine again, or that normal place, that place that they call home, right? Sometimes they appear to be absent-minded because of their inner activities. Sometimes they're inside of their heads so much that they may not feel as if they're present, but they are. But they're working on the inner standing of things, not the understanding, right? And they're very, very active, right? Very active people. They also have an intense communication with Earth and nature. So this is part of the grounding techniques, and these are the healers that come up and they use the Earth's frequencies, the Schumann resonance, and they it heightens their skills to help others, right? And this is one of the things that you can access if you're part of the Syrian family. So you can access these earth energies and help heal people. This is why this is all incredible information, and I really think it is. So now we're going to talk about the Syrians and Ascension. And I know it seems like we're skipping all over the place. We kind of are. I'm plucking out the best points that I thought were most important, because if I went through here and read you all of the research that I did, we'd probably be here for like 5 hours. I know some might like that, but some might not. And I want to make this an archive. And what I mean by that is this series is an archive that people can access to share with others, to show them, hey, you might be a part of this family. This might be your cosmic family. Take a look at this. Or if you have questions about specific races when you're trying to collaborate your information or your presentations, it's readily accessible to you to just grab, watch, take the parts out you need and run with it, right? Nothing's copywritten here as in the sense of the information itself. So this is all free for the people to use as they need. And that's another important step of what we're doing here. So to the ascension. This ascension process can and will manifest in many different ways. And it is up to all of us as a collective to decide how and when this occurs. And this is what I'm talking about. Creating the ascension starts with each of us on the inside. Sirians tell us the most important thing to do is to go inside of our hearts and be open to love unconditionally. Now, the Syrians are working with individual human beings first. Then they're giving us hints as to what's happening. And as we meet others from little groups all together across the galaxy, we see that there's an interconnection with one another, with ourselves and with them. And we begin to share experience with them. And I mean them as in the galactical families, the galactical races, the peoples out there. And later, this would lead to a more conscious understanding of what their purpose and our purpose is in the transformation of our planet. And it goes into this ascension. The ascension will be like a key opening and anchoring the light body to the physical, emotional, and mental bodies, right? Allowing them to integrate and thereby give each individual much greater access to the higher dimensions of experience and of oneness, especially with others. They really would, there would be no other, because everyone will realize that their connection to the whole, and of course, all things happening would still be choice of everyone. But you wouldn't see others as those others. You would see them, you. And this is what Omar talks about, and being a projection of you. I am a projection of you. You are a projection of me. We are a collective. We are the one. We are all derived from source. While there may be some individualistic characteristics of each other, and that's a choice to have those individualistic characteristics, we still are all the same together. So it's not mutually exclusive to be an individual and to be a part of the one or the collective. You can have both. You are both, right? And that's important to understand. And the Syrians tell us a lot about that. So now I want to get into the histories of the ancient peoples that were directly impacted by the Syrians themselves. And again, share this information out. People need to wake up to this stuff. And it's, if not us, then who? It's our duty to give this to people so that they can wake up as well. And then put down the guns and the wars and all that petty BS when they know that there's more there. And we need to be looking up and not straight, right? We need to be ascending up and not lateral. So the Mayans had a very special relationship with the Sirians. They shared information, the Syrians with the Mayans, with the enigmatic South American civilization. The extraterrestrials originating from Sirius B are believed to have played a tremendous part in the disappearance of the Maya. They are accredited with leaving behind amazing artifacts such as the crystal skulls. And I believe once the crystal skulls are accessed for their information, not just our energy, which we do now, it'll tell the story of how the Syrians helped the Mayans go back to their home world, right? And that could be Sirius A, Sirius B, maybe, could be somewhere else. So, another ancient civilization that had a tremendous presence of Syrians in it and that benefited from the Syrian presence as well was the Atlanteans. And remember, the Maya were a part of Atlantis. They were the priesthood or the priest class of Atlantis. So the Syrians were as well, right? And it's believed that during a cataclysmic event that essentially either sunk Atlantis or it left this planet, the Syrians were instrumental in leading the rescue operations. Other civilizations had been influenced by the Syrians as well. And the most notable case of this is the Dogon tribe of West Africa. And although we're more involved during our planet's past, nowadays, the Sirians supposedly play a more subtle role through technology exchange programs and are often mentioned in connection with covert exotic research as well as travel experimentation, right? So there's a lot that the Syrians are putting forward, and there's a lot of places where we look at the history books and we can see the reconstituting of the Syrians in our past. And it's not just the Syrians as a whole. We can definitively say that this is probably the Syrian Bs or the Syrian As. And while these two groups that we talked about tonight, there are multiple races within each of those groups. Not everybody's the same, just like we're not the same, right? We have multiple races of people on this planet, but they seem to have gotten to a point where they put down, those petty differences and move past it, and they see themselves as collectives and as part of that greater galactical family, which is one of the things that I'm trying to show people, that there is a brighter future ahead of us and we're moving towards that as we go. So next, this is what I'm going to be doing at the end of each one of these small presentations. And there are a lot smaller because there's more information that has to be told than seen, right? Personally, I think the Syrians played a tremendous role. And one of the things that we didn't talk about was the treaty between the Syrians and the Pleiadians that essentially protected Ascension for a lot of other worlds across the galaxy. We know the Pleiadians are like the police of the galaxy. They're one of the most advanced races that are bar none. So they are pretty much the head of the pack. But the Sirians, along with the Palladians and the Galactical Council, we talked about the Alpha Centauran and how they're kind of newer to the whole galactical family. These two pillars created such things as the Federation of planets and things like that, just like we see in Star Wars. But they created the Galactic Federation to benefit races such as ours, to help them ascend, to help them transcend their 3D matrices and kind of move into this new era for each planet. And it's these small interactions that we have with the Sirians and the Palladians and the Alpha Centaurans that guide us, right? That it guides us to be better, just to be better than we are right now. And I'm not saying that we're bad. We're unconditional love. And this community embodies that. But not everybody's in the same wavelength as we are. And that's why we're trying to get more people into these communities so they can feel that love, because that love is contagious. It's infectious. When people start to feel it, they start to understand why people keep coming back to these communities and partaking in shows like this and being in a chat and talking with each other, because it is those moments, those little 1 hour moments that I do this show, that I feel like information is just flowing through me and coming out. And while I watch other people's shows, I feel the same way in the chat. The love radiates amongst everybody, right? It goes in, it goes out, it comes. It's a lot to take in, but we have to take it in, and we have to, because we have to move towards the foundations that they set for us, right? They set these examples for us to follow. So let's follow them. Let's move with them. And then again, when we get to a level where they can trust us to share more of what they have, whether it be spiritual advice or technology, we'll be privy to so much more. Imagine going out there on a ship and exploring new galaxies with these entities, and having their understanding behind it, right? But you know, we have to drop a lot of the stigmas that we feel that have been programmed into us. Because again, no matter what race we're talking about, whether it's ours, the Palladians, the Sirians, the even Draco, there are good and bad. So we analyze it from a place of gray or middle ground, because we don't want to. And this is one of the examples that I say this a lot, right? Let's say I myself of an MA Alpha Centurion Starseed, and I am receiving direct communication from the Alpha Centauri. And because of the ways that I've explored the Dracos, I think that they're all bad, all of them. But then one Draco, who's not bad, comes to give us a warning about what his peoples or somebody else is doing, right? And we sit there and we take that controlled stigma, because we've been hearing Draco bad, Draco bad, Draco bad, and we don't listen. And then something bad happens, right? So while we don't give them the energy to corrupt us, we still have to listen, right? We still have to be open to listen. Otherwise, something tremendous could either pass us or to us, because we were so stuck in a dogmatic or stigmatic way, right? And if we know that not every race is bad 100%, there's a margin for error, and we can always listen. And if it doesn't apply, we let it fly and tell it to take a hike. And we'll know whatever entity's intention when they speak or when they communicate, right? And there's also neutral races that don't want any part of anything. They just want to be. And we have to just be, right? So we can't get caught up in the this is of the light, this is of the dark. We can, to an extent, but there is, like, again, there's a threshold. We need to be able to absorb information on both sides of the spectrum, in a sense of, if we see that it's darkness, we send it away and it's gone. But we give it the chance to sort of talk, right? And let us know. And it's not, I'm not saying that we should be upholdent to the dark. 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel what the presence is too, and you'll know. And if it's that dark, you tell it you have no power here. You're gone. But we don't want to miss opportunities either, right? We don't want to miss potentially meeting one that might be of the light, but majority of their race is of the dark. And that could be a tremendous help to understanding and connecting dots and figuring out the galactical schemes of things, right? And the way it all works. We need to have that balance. They have balance, so we need it too, right? So again, I'm going to put the event link in the chat for everybody. If you haven't gone and gotten your ticket, it's a free ticket, But this ticket will give you access to the website in which this is being put. This is being broadcasted on. It will not be here on YouTube. Okay, this is a get you censored broadcast that will especially get us censored if we did this on YouTube. So join us. We're gonna have a tremendous time. Um, I want to say thank you to everybody in the FSF chat. We're going to start doing a couple of day shows on Telegram itself. It's audio. We can do video, but it's just audio. But we can screen share. We could do a lot of different things on that platform, just like we were going to do on Clubhouse. But it's a little bit easier. So make sure you sign up for both Telegram groups and become a part of that. We haven't decided dates or times yet, but if you're a part of those groups, you will get a notification. I will post it here as well with a link directly to it, but we're going to start having open conversations where it's not just me speaking. Because while what I'm saying is important, I want to hear everybody else's ideas about it too. That's what that avenue is for. It's crowd sharing information. Because when we all come at it from different perspectives, it's a more robust understanding of the entirety of it all. And that's the kind of understanding that I really, really want. So with that being said, again, Leanne, you are in our hearts and in our prayers. We love you. Stay strong. Make sure you guys go and sign up for your free ticket. Again, here is the lineup: David Icke, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Sasha Stone, Edward Griffin, and Brad Olson. We are going to be celebrating the Great Awakening and exposing the you know what. So, with that being said, I hope everybody had a great time tonight. We'll be back in a day or two with some more information for everybody to digest, and I will see you all in the frequency, I guess. Right? We'll see you all in the frequency. Thank you. I hope everybody had a great time. I sure did. Have a great night.